I think there are appropriate times to do it, and there are also very inappropriate ways to use it. I think so long as you're doing it in a safe environment and in a safe manner, then I don't really see a huge problem with it.
It's bad.
Depends on the substance, but I think it's fine if you don't resort to crime, to maintain your habit or anything. And as long as you can function it.
I don't know, that's very broad for me. Personally, I think it depends on the drug or substance. Like, I don't necessarily think weed and alcohol are, in moderation are things to be super concerned about, but I don't think I'd ever be okay with like cocaine, and then there's also like this other class of like heroin and, hard drugs. So yeah, I just feel like in terms of one's health and a lot of the behavioral effects that can happen when you're like high or when you're like blackout drunk, just kind of turn into a very, not a very good person.
I smoked a lot, but then I switched to vape.
I smoke weed every now and then, and I drink. And I also, I used to do a lot of acid. Just, I would take like a couple weeks break in between, but I would do a lot at once.
I drink. I kind of keep it to like a 3-drink limit though when I'm out. I used to smoke weed like when I was a freshman, and that went on for like a month, but I had a really bad anxiety attack when I was high once, and I like threw up everywhere, so I haven't smoked since. Like, I think physically, like the smell of it just like nauseates me because of that. I smoke cigarettes like once a month, like 1 cigarette a month kind of thing if I'm at a party or whatever, but that's it, yeah.
I would say it's pretty similar as caffeine, so it will increase the heartbeat rate. But then nicotine, I heard that it's not that bad, because like in tobacco, what's bad in tobacco is actually other things, not nicotine. Nicotine is what makes you addicted.
Yeah, I was very much aware of the positive effects. Alcohol, for me, I have a very low tolerance of it, and so that being said, it is something I don't consume in large quantities. It's not something that makes my behavior erratic or anything, just because I know my tolerance and know my limit, and I know how, too much obviously is never good.
Yeah, I would research. I did research. I know for weed I researched a lot before I started smoking, and then even acid, I didn't find anything really bad with it. It makes me a lot more erratic, a lot crazier. Delusional thinking is definitely like a big one. They're fun. You feel.
I know that, a lot of the times, I know different drugs have different effects, but like, I guess kind of a blanket statement could be that it does disable or like inhibit your prefrontal cortex, so your decision making is kind of screwed up, and you might do things that you wouldn't do when you were sober, and some of these actions could like hurt people that you love or care about, or they could just hurt yourself. So yeah, I think the severe lowering of the inhibition is kind of what concerns me.
In a sense, I think it's a good thing. Just in terms of, if you think about like alcohol and how there's prohibition, I think a lot of dangerous behavior can come from things being illegal. And I think I see that a lot with underage drinking. A lot of people indulge in underage drinking because I think there's some kind of, appeal to something being illegal, versus with marijuana it's more regulated, or I would hope it would be more regulated, but also in terms of the economy, it would do so many people indulge in it that I think it would be a good thing.
Love it. It's great. You're taking money out of cartels. Like, honestly, like, why haven't we been doing this? But honestly, I kind of have radical views on drugs in general. I think all drugs should be legal, and that money should be spent on rehabilitation, not enforcement. Just because I think that, you know, enforcement certainly hasn't been working. Like, drug cartels are richer than you or I will ever be, and yeah, a lot of crime associated with them. I really don't like how possession of a substance gets you jail time, because yeah, sure, you know, crime does increase with like drug related problems, you know, but you're kind of assuming that the person's going to commit a crime before they've even committed a crime. You're punishing a cause rather than an effect, and sometimes like the cause it's not an actual cause, you know. Like, sometimes there are many law-abiding drug users, and it just doesn't seem right.
I think, I mean, I'm in favor of it, like, even though I don't smoke personally, just because, you know, like, all the arguments as to, like, you know, if alcohol is legal, in my opinion, then, like, why shouldn't marijuana be? Especially because, like, alcohol can have like really lethal effects, you know, like huge doses. I don't think you can overdose from marijuana. I feel like you don't have cannabis receptors in the part of your brain that you would overdose on. See, I don't know. I've thought of this because, you know, I feel like there was some Scandinavian country, it might have been like Finland or Sweden, where they decriminalized drugs. But it wasn't for the purpose, obviously, to, like, you know, have people do more drugs. It was more of like a, hey, like, if you're an addict, like, you have an illness, and like, let the government help you. And by decriminalizing it, more people sought out help. So in that sense, I would be totally for it. But I also understand that, like, the government has a responsibility to, like, protect its people to a certain extent. And I feel like if, you know, all drugs, I'm thinking like in terms of like heroin and like cocaine and, you know, crazy stuff became legal, would you see an increase in like overdoses? Like, would you see an increase in usage? So like, that's what would be my concern, you know?
I believe so. One day I will quit because I started to decrease the amount of nicotine in the juice. So one day I will quit. Especially when I get married. I don't want to be like harmful to the kid or like influence the kid.
Definitely marijuana. I don't think I'd continue it past maybe my 20s. Just because that, unless, I guess there's like a sort of social taboo with it, whereas it's not like very appropriate to be indulging in that, especially as you become more of a professional adult. Not to say that I'm not right now, but in college you want to experiment with things, so. But with alcohol, I would see myself enjoying it as I grow older, just because it's one of those things that it's good to have, especially to socialize with them.
I don't know. I'm sure I could go like months without doing it. It doesn't sound like it still sounds like fun, you know. I wouldn't see any reason to stop, because when you do it moderately, I don't really see too much harm in it. But I don't know, that's my opinion. I'm sure there is some harm, so I guess on that basis you'd say, you know, you should stop. But
yeah, I do. I mean, I don't really feel an urgent need to like swear it off for the rest of my life, just because I do smoke so like irregularly, you know, and I've never had like anything severely negative happen to me when I've been smoking or vaping. But, you know, if me from like 10 years came back and was like, you're never gonna smoke another cigarette again, I'd be like, all right, you know. It wouldn't surprise me, and it wouldn't like upset me or make me feel like I'm missing out on anything.